looks like there's going to be a fight between, or there's going to be an ongoing fight between Bernie Sanders and Mayor Pete Buttigieg. So what do I mean by this? It looks like right now Bernie Sanders is casting Pete Buttigieg as the favorite of the billionaire class. It's something that Bernie Sanders said in the last debate that I covered in with the team here at Hardlands Media. And Bernie Sanders went on to state this: I like Pete Buttigieg. Nice guy. But we're in a moment where billionaires control not only our economy, but our political process. Do you think if you're collecting money from dozens of billionaires, you're going to stand up to the drug companies and you're going to throw their CEOs in jail if they're acting criminally? Do you think that's going to happen? So, again, that's a really good point, because Pete Buttigieg has a history of listening to his lobby groups and his donors. What do I mean by this? Well, take, for example, his time as mayor of South Bend, Indiana, where people have said, especially those who were close to Mayor Pete Buttigieg, that the only way to really get access to him, the only way you can get things done, is by talking to the lobby groups and his donors first, because Mayor Pete Buttigieg listens to them first. Remember, this is Mayor Pete Buttigieg who had that infamous wine cave meeting where, of course, they were all talking about, the struggles of the working class. Probably not. They weren't doing that. But remember, too, even during that last debate that I covered it with you guys, he had 39 billionaires supporting him. He was just shy from, good old Joe Biden. So a spokesman for Buttigieg responded in regards to this: I will make exactly one promise to anybody, whether they're giving $3 online or the maximum allowable by the law. And the promise is I'm going to take that contribution. I'm going to use it to build a campaign that's going to defeat Donald Trump so that we can actually get reforms that this country needs. Okay, great. So the spokesperson was basically repeating what Mayor Pete Buttigieg has said in the past. But that doesn't work. In what reality do we think where someone, whether they're a Democrat or Republican running for office, that they're going to stand up to their donors? Remember, we have a system where the donors buy the politicians and then they do what the politicians said. Remember, Donald Trump said this even during the 2016 primary against his fellow Republican candidates. I give these people money and they do what I say. So I want to open the floor with these opening shots between Senator Bernie Sanders, Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Paul, Daniel, take it away.
I think it's funny that a lot of the centrist establishment class has really coalesced around Pete. I think a lot of it is just like, well, he's the one whose name we heard that wasn't Bernie, because that was the thing we were talking about earlier. Is sort of, it really is sort of like, hey, Bernie and not Bernie. Those are the two things people want to vote on. We saw Biden's support completely plummet. Like the floor just dropped out underneath that campaign. And a lot of people that default support, as Kyle Kalinske calls it, it's like looking for the place to go. And just Pete was the name that was repeated more often. Now, I think he's super vulnerable after what we saw in Iowa. Pete the Cheat is like what we're calling him now. Sneaky Pete.
Sneaky Pete.
Shadow
really,
Pete.
that's going to be the guy you think is going to take this all the way? But I think that playbook is hoping for a contested convention. Like that's the best hope and prayer for the centrist establishment-minded candidate. So I'm with you guys. I think I'm kind of okay that Pete is the one that they've kind of revolved around, because he doesn't stand for anything, and it's obvious. But so now it really just gets to be this discussion of what are the policies that we want to have going forward, and hey, maybe I want to have a guy that doesn't make me think about things, and status quo-ism is not a good way about looking for a candidate.
So on that note, this is kind of the best case scenario that we were hoping for and have been hoping for. We've been talking for a while. Earlier in the year, it was either, hey, should Warren be the person that drops out quicker, or should it be Biden? And right now, Biden looks like he's winning that race. And that's really good, because Biden has a lot of that long-term name recognition, a lot of the same things that Hillary Clinton had when she ran, which is not the best thing if you're Bernie Sanders. But if, just like Paul said, if all that support all of a sudden flips over to Pete this early on, and that just clips Biden's wings entirely, again, the faster that Biden drops out of the race, the better it is for Sanders, because if all that default support moves over to Pete, but a lot of it will also move over to Bernie, Pete will artificially look good in the first two states. But again, the second you have any amount of diversity, and a lot of the diversity that Joe Biden thinks he's going to win this firewall is going to move over to Sanders. It's not going to move to Pete. So if Pete does, again, really well here in New Hampshire, it takes a strong second place in New Hampshire, and the establishment starts freaking out, and they go, Biden, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. We need Pete to take this because they think that he's been the chosen one. They will fool themselves, and Sanders will just clean the board going forward. So welcome, Pete.
Yeah.
We need you for your sacrifice.
So, real quick, one final note before we move on to our next story, and that is we have to remember the more we're going to learn more about Pete Buttigieg, because a former guest, I mentioned Anthony Clark, we had him here in our studio, and he actually went to South Bend, Indiana to interview some people who actually live in South Bend, Indiana, most notably the African American community that lives in South Bend, Indiana. Check out some of those videos that he posted on his social media. They're painting a whole other different picture of what it was like to have Mayor Pete Buttigieg as the person to represent them for their city. Remember, there's a lot to look for in regards to where a candidate stands on the issues. Mayor Pete Buttigieg listens to the top 1%. He listens to his donors. And during his time, he allowed police corruption to go unchallenged. He was gentrifying neighborhoods and people were forced out. That's who he is. That's what he represents. Come on. We got to do better. So, welcome to the race, like Daniel said, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, because it's only going to get that much more harder.
Oh,
So,
I can't wait. This race is going to be fun.
and I'm waiting for the debate tonight, too.